Sup, dude? Arvydas Sabonis could have been the greatest basketball player of all time. If you're only familiar with his NBA career, that statement might sound ridiculous, but by the end of this video, I think you'll understand. You see, Arvydas Sabonis was a rookie in the NBA at the ripe age of 31. As a rookie, he averaged a modest 14.5 points, 8 rebounds, and close to 2 assists per game. Those numbers were good enough to get him on the 1996 All-Rookie First Team. That achievement, along with being inducted into the Hall of Fame, were the only two honors Arvydas received as an NBA player. His best season in the league, he averaged 16 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, and a block a game. While those numbers are pretty solid, they definitely aren't GOAT numbers, so how could Arvydas even possibly come close to being the best player of all time? Allow me to explain. When Arvydas finally came to the NBA in 1995, he was a shell of his former self. The Trailblazers team physician looked at his x-rays and said he could qualify for a handicapped parking spot just off his x-rays alone. He was slow, beat up, chubby, and couldn't jump an inch off the ground. He was in such bad shape because he had already played for 14 years in Europe as well as for the Soviet national team and the Lithuanian national team. I'm not exaggerating at all when I tell you people thought Arvydas was a god. He was one of the most versatile 7'3" centers in basketball history. He was a great passer, finisher, shooter, and his defense was incredible. The dude was Victor Wembanyama before Victor Wembanyama. Bill Walton went to go see him play in the 80s and he was amazed. Bill said it felt like by halftime Arvydas already had a quadruple double, and he also said, and I quote, "He had the skills of Larry Bird and Pete Maravich. He had the athleticism of Kareem and he could shoot the three-point shot. He could pass, run the floor, dribble. We should have carried out a plan in the early 1980s to kidnap him and bring him back right then." End quote. Another NBA player who had high praise for Arvydas was Detlef Schrempf, who was from Germany and played against him from a young age. He said if Arvydas was in the NBA, he would be the best player possibly ever and the best center in the league by far. People couldn't believe their eyes when they saw him play. There was nobody like him. So if he was so good, why wasn't he playing in the NBA? Well, to answer that, it's pretty simple. Back in the 80s, there was this little thingy going on called the Cold War, and the United States and Soviet Union were not friends. Arvydas was from Lithuania, which at the time was part of the Soviet Union, so there's no way the dude was getting to America. Despite this, 2 NBA teams took a chance on him. The first was the Atlanta Hawks. They drafted him in 1985 with the 77th pick, however the pick got voided because Arvydas wasn't 21 yet and the NBA had some rule for overseas players where they had to be 21 by the draft. So the following year the Trailblazers decided to draft him with the 24th pick, but like I said earlier, he didn't actually make it to the NBA until almost 10 years later. While in Europe, the amount of awards he received was absolutely insane, so instead of saying them, I'm gonna put the list on the screen. There's a shit ton of MVPs and championships. In addition to that, in the 1988 Olympics, he won a gold medal with the Soviet national team. He actually wasn't supposed to play during those Olympics. The Trailblazers medical staff said he wasn't ready due to knee and back problems, and he was still recovering from a torn Achilles. The Soviet Union didn't listen though, and they forced him to play. Even in bad health, he wowed everyone. In the Olympic semifinals matched up against David Robinson, he put up 13 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 stocks, shooting 50% from the field. The Soviets won 82-76 and went on to play a stacked Yugoslavian team that had Drazen Petrovic, Vlade Divac, and Toni Kukoc. Arvydas big boyed those Yugoslavians, scoring 20 points, grabbing 15 rebounds, and blocking 3 shots in the championship. The Soviets won 76-63 and the hype for Arvydas grew exponentially. In the following 2 Olympic Games, he was able to rep Lithuania because they broke away from the communists and became an independent nation. For the 1992 Olympic Games, Lithuania didn't have much money, so the Grateful Dead sponsored them and created quite possibly the dopest shirts to ever be made. Lithuania won the bronze medal after getting molested by the Dream Team, and in the following Olympics they won bronze again. Being forced to play with the Soviet national team for a decade was a major reason why Arvydas had so many injuries. He said he believes that because he was from Lithuania, he was treated much worse than the guys who were from Russia. He was overworked and forced to play through injuries. For anyone that spells disaster, but for Arvydas it was much worse because he was 7'3". The impact it had on his health was devastating. After having an extremely successful European career, a battered and bruised Arvydas made his way to play in the NBA. He played for 7 seasons, averaging 12 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block a night. He was nowhere near as good as he was in Europe, but he was still pretty good. The dude played fundamental team basketball. His IQ was off the charts. By 1999, in Arvydas' 3rd year in the league, the Trailblazers made it all the way to the conference finals. Sadly, they got swept by the Spurs, but the next year during the 2000 playoffs, they made it to the conference finals again. They were matched up against Kobe, Shaq, and the Lakers. To be honest, Arvydas didn't play very well. He averaged just 8 points, 6 rebounds, and shot 38% from the field. We'll cut him some slack though, because he put up those numbers as a handicap person. Despite his poor play, the team was playing great, and by the end of the third quarter of Game 7, it looked like Portland was going to the finals. They had a 13-point lead, all they had to do was keep up the good work for 12 more minutes. But I guess it's easier said than done, because Portland shit in their diaper, sat in it, and squashed it all against their butt cheeks. For the first 7.5 minutes, the Trailblazers went scoreless, missing 13 shots in a row. Meanwhile, Kobe and Shaq were creating a hoop mixtape. By the end of the quarter, Portland had been outscored 31-13. The final score was 89-84, and the Lakers moved on to the finals. This was the closest Arvydas ever got to the finals, and after just 2 more seasons, he was retired. His body couldn't take it anymore. If his health was taken seriously and he had played his whole career in the NBA, who knows how much damage he could have done. My last video is on the super underrated clutch performer ISO Joe, so if you want to watch that, click here. Thanks for watching this one. Hope you enjoyed. Bye, dude.